Thanks for joining us today on Staff Center Stage, where the lights are shining brightly on Tim Koehler. Tim, it's your time to shine. So,
all right, good morning.
Here we go. So Tim is a principal at McGovern Middle School, and tell us a little bit about yourself. What should we know about Tim Koehler?
Years of insurance, and then was
Wow,
fortunate
that's an
enough.
exciting world.
Yes, yeah. 2 years in, I knew it was not for me.
Okay. Thankful.
George McGovern, and this is my second year.
Sure. So as you started as a teacher, were you also a teacher at the middle school level?
I was, yes.
Okay.
I 7th, 8th, and 9th
Okay.
because we were a junior high school.
Sure.
So I taught 7th, 8th, and 9th grade math and science for 8 years.
Okay. Well, that's a big task.
Yes, yes. It was very smaller school, so the class size was about 35.
Sure.
So my average class was somewhere in that 15 to 20 kids, and so.
All right. Well, fantastic. So, did you grow up in Nebraska, or how'd you get started?
I did not. I grew up just a little ways outside of Sioux Falls, Hurley.
Hurley.
So small
Big town,
town, yeah,
Hurley.
yeah, small town. 12 kids in my graduating class.
Okay.
So really small group, but you get to know everybody there. And
Absolutely.
so my parents owned a company there in Hurley, and my mom worked at the hospital over in Viborg, and
Okay.
so.
Good. Small town boy.
Yes.
And now you're big city principal.
Big city principal.
Right.
Yes,
So
yeah.
how many years have you been at McGovern?
This is my second year.
Second year at McGovern.
year.
So coming from Hurley, with 12 students in your graduating class, that's a big difference to being at McGovern, where we have several hundred students.
Yeah, for sure. I've talked about before that most of my experience has been a little bit smaller schools. One of my past districts was closer to the size, about 600 kids in the middle school that I was at. But here at George, with 900, we're 940 this year.
Wow.
So that's quite a difference. However, my dad's family is from the Los Angeles area.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
I did do a year of my middle school experience out in California, just outside of Los Angeles in Lakewood. We had over 3,000 kids in our middle school. And their middle
Wow.
schools there are 7, 8, 9. So
My goodness. So Los Angeles, Hurley,
yes.
what happened there?
Mom's family's from around
Okay.
Hurley and Sioux Falls area, and my dad's family is from out on the West Coast. So
Wow.
moved back here when I was 1 or 2, right in that
Okay.
age, and so I grew up here most time. My parents were divorced. My dad had moved back out there, and I went
Okay.
out there for a year. Again, realized that's not for me. Too many people and too much
Sure.
going on. So.
Sure. Wow. Well, your own experiences have to have prepared you somewhat for being in charge of a middle school with 900 kids.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a difference in any of the schools I've been in, even from George McGovern to the school that I attended out there. It was more of an open campus. Felt kind of like a college campus. You
Sure.
walk from building to building for your
Okay.
classes, and open campus for lunch, even though it was 7th, 8th, and 9th
Wow.
grade. Now you didn't leave. You went outside, sat on benches and
Sure.
things like that. And so a very different feeling and a very diverse population,
Sure.
especially coming from Hurley.
Hurley.
So,
Right.
my first 8 years of school in Hurley,
Right.
and then showing up in California. So.
Wow, wow. Well, did you ever think at that point in time, at that age, your middle school age, that you would be a middle school principal?
Not a chance.
No?
Not a chance. I just was actually visiting with some high school classmates and talking about one of them whose parent was one of our teachers growing up, and how even at that time that was not even
on the
in my
radar.
realm of possibilities. No.
What did you think you were going to do?
I didn't really know until I got to college, and when I went to the University of South Dakota for my undergrad and my grad work.
Sorry, go Jacks.
Yeah, I'll just let that be. So when I first got there, I thought I was going to be an athletic trainer.
Okay. But
started
still,
taking a few courses that actually ended up working in with all my coaching that I did get endorsements for. And so about a year and a half in, I decided that probably wasn't the right path either, and had made a couple of changes in my military thought process. I actually thought I was probably going to go active duty, and did not. My parents talked me into finishing college first, which I'm very grateful for.
Sure.
And then at that point, I needed to decide what I was going to do, and took a couple of classes in the ed school and loved it. And that's where I made the change.
Sure. So let's talk now. You've mentioned a couple times briefly your service with National Guard, you said.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you, were you talked into that? Did you sign right up?
Yeah, 17 years old, South Dakota Army National Guard, recruiter that became actually a very good friend of mine over the years, Scott Binder, and he came to our high school, was talking with a couple other students. I visited with him a little bit, knew his brother-in-laws that were around my age, and took a look at it. And about 2 weeks later, I was signed up, and within about less than a month, I was at my first drill. Wow. 17 years old. I have an 18-year-old son now, and I talk to him all the time about, he's still in high school.
Sure.
And I always tell him when I was 18, I was on KP, so doing dishes and finishing up my advanced individual training, because I started at 17 years old. So spent 25 years with South Dakota Guard, and
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a fantastic experience, and I owe them so much, from the schooling that they were able to help me pay for and take care of, to the education that I got through the system, and then the men and women that I served with and got to know very well that are still some of my best friends.
Yeah,
so.
That leadership that really grows through a structure like the National Guard is something that can be used in any profession.
Sure, yeah. And that's when I talk about the changes at school. I got into Officer Candidate School, was accepted into that program, and started going through that program, and reduced my course load a little bit at school so I could do that. And that's when I started to rethink what I was doing and if I was on the right path there. And so.
Okay, good. So that all played into where you're at today.
Yes, it did.
So were you part of the Vermilion unit?
I was not. So I've been in the 147th Field Artillery is where I spent most of my career. I spent some time at Joint Force Headquarters out in Rapid City. But the Field Artillery at the time was a brigade, now is a battalion, so a little bit smaller size. But I started in the Salem unit. Okay. And then Sioux Falls, Yankton. Took command of the Mitchell unit, had command of that, mobilized with that unit as a commander, moved back to Sioux Falls to be on a battalion staff, then out to Joint Force Headquarters in Rapid City, back to Watertown for a battalion staff position again, and then was deployed with the battalion. And then I finished with the MEB here in Sioux Falls. So.
Wow. So you've been a lot of places in South Dakota with that experience, but where were you deployed?
We were in Kuwait.
Okay.
So, right. We had security detail in Kuwait, and part of a brigade that had troops in Iraq and Kuwait, and we were doing security in both countries. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, back here now with us as principal, and probably grateful for all those experiences that led to this point in time.
Yes.
So what do you want people to know about McGovern Middle School?
Wow. You know, 2 years in, I'm still learning a lot about
Sure.
McGovern Middle School, but I think the biggest thing I would like people to know is the great things that are going on out there, from the fantastic teachers and other administrators in the building, and the hard work and dedication they have, but just the work that the students are doing. I think that people would be surprised if they came out to our building and spent a day with us and just watched all the fantastic things that are going on. And then now with my second year being there, I'm trying to find a new mission, vision. How are we moving forward with George McGovern? And I've had the benefit of having 2 excellent assistant principals that work with me, and Richie Hutchison and Becky Van Droglen. And Richie's been taking the lead on a group that originally we put together to review our discipline program and how we were doing that within the school. Now they are working on a mission and vision and some core values for us.
Okay.
So
Good.
Yeah.
Trying to instill that pride of I'm a McGovern student.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we've got some great things going on there too, where we're starting to see more of that. We've added social media this year, which they didn't have, and I think that's gone over very well.
Good.
We have a lot of followers on Instagram and Facebook, and
Wonderful.
so
Well, check that out if
Yeah.
you're a social media user, and
Absolutely.
find out the great things happening there. I assume you're using that for communication of those good programs and
we are.
successes.
Yeah, we've had quite a few things go out this year based on our athletics, but our robotics club, some of our after-school clubs that have been going on, and now we're partnered with Great Life, and they've been doing a few additional clubs, and we've had some of those out on social media as well.
Right. So that's a great thing to mention, the fact that Great Life has come alongside and is doing some programming with students out there, and doing, what are the activities that you've had so far?
Sure. So far, we've had a basketball camp, a flag football camp. We're currently doing a lacrosse clinic with them, introducing kids to lacrosse. Many of them have no idea what it was before getting in there.
I'd have to raise my hand for that too,
Yeah,
that I don't know anything about it.
And I wouldn't have known until the club reached out to us. We had a student who plays on a lacrosse club in our building, and so the club reached out to us, and I think that's gone very well so far. A lot of kids that are it's piquing their interest for them. Cooking club, that's been really well attended. And then we've done some bowling. We've taken them out to, with the help of Boys and Girls Club.
Sure.
They've transported kids to the bowling alley and teaching them some proper bowling techniques and just allowing them to bowl.
Right. So why are those, we talk about it all the time, the value that those extracurriculars, those clubs, why is that so important, especially in a middle school, that coming together, the belonging to something? Academically, it helps also. But
Sure.
talk a little bit about that, the
Yeah,
value
absolutely.
that brings.
I look at it from a couple of standpoints. One, as you mentioned, just building that cohesiveness within our student body and allowing them to get to meet people that they might not otherwise, that they don't live in the same area, or they didn't know them, they went to a different middle or elementary school, because we have several elementary schools that are feeding us. And the other piece that's different, having done a couple of years as a high school administrator, high school students have so much more independence in what they do in their outside life. The middle school students, they're not driving yet. They rely on mom and dad to get them somewhere, or some family member. With these clinics and camps and stuff, we give them a chance to get to a different location or experience something different, that we don't have to lean back to the family and ask them to help us transport them. We've been able to get transportation. Like I said, Boys and Girls Club has been really instrumental in that, and so then that builds that camaraderie even more with that student.
Right, develops friendships that go back into the classroom, where you can be working in small groups with somebody, and I had cooking camp with that person, or whatever.
Yeah, and an understanding of where that middle schoolers have these odd feelings and thoughts about how awkward they are, and they're going
Right.
through so many changes, to know that somebody else is doing that same thing, right?
Yeah.
This person that I didn't really know, but they're going through a lot of the same life
Same.
changes I am.
Right,
So.
exactly. And just that, that able to lean on others and identify with the same things going on in their lives and same feelings and things.
Absolutely.
So important. Well,
Absolutely.
very good. So in terms of what you like to do outside of when you're a middle school principal, what are some of those things you enjoy?
Yeah, the last few years I feel like I've kind of faded away from some of my hobbies, but probably the number one thing that I've been doing lately, I own a Polaris razor.
Oh, sure.
And my wife and I and my brothers have built a place out in the hills. And so we go out there whenever we get a chance and ride the trails, and we do a little bit of riding around here. There's not as many areas to ride, but that's been one of my number one hobbies lately. I love to play golf. I just haven't played as much lately. I wish I could get back into that some more, and hopefully maybe I can as things settle down. And then I used to ride snowmobile a lot.
Oh, really?
Used to do that a lot with my brother, but I've kind of got out of that the last couple of years too. Getting a little bit older and got to take a few less chances.
Yes. I have done some snowmobiling in my day also.
Yeah.
And then I have back problems now because of that.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily only because of that, but
Right,
as a
right.
contributing factor. The razor is a little safer, would you say?
It depends on who's driving, but yeah, it can be a little safer.
Is it safer when you're driving or when you're...
Probably when my wife's driving.
Wife's
But no, it's at least I can put a seatbelt on and
Right.
and have a little bit more control. Sure.
Back support,
Right.
a little
yeah,
bit.
full seat and this one that we purchased, this is our second one, and this one's a little more designed for us to just ride casually. Radio,
Okay.
full setup in there. So.
What do you like about being out in the hills? And
I love the hills. Just the whole area, the openness of it, the terrain, and then bugs in the summer. Go out in the winter, it doesn't seem to be as windy or as cold.
True.
The temperatures seem to be a little bit more moderated, and so.
Right.
So yeah, I just love being out there. Part of that might be because it's getting away from Sioux Falls, getting away from work and everything else, all the other obligations, and just kind of forgetting about that for a little bit.
Right.
So if the work was right there beside me, it might not be the same, but.
Yeah, true.
So.
Well, and many times we don't take advantage of what is right outside our door.
Sure.
Too. So if you live out there, you do have to kind of question, would I ride the trails as much as and would I enjoy it as much as I do?
Right.
So sometimes.
Yeah, you try to pack a lot in when you go out there, and
Right.
you might take advantage of the fact that it's right there, and then, like you said, not quite use it as much. But.
Sure. So do you have a large family? You mentioned just one brother?
I have 3 brothers and a sister. I lost a brother in a car accident quite a while ago. 2 brothers and I built this place together. Our parents have all passed, and so.
Sure.
So
It's your connection to that
right.
family too.
Yeah, great place for all of us to kind of get together and hang out. So.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
very fun. That sounds amazing, and hopefully you get an opportunity to go out there. I know it's never enough. Right?
It never is enough. I wish it was 2 hours away instead of 6 hours away, but.
True.
So then maybe I'd get there even more. But.
Yeah. Well, what about you? Do we need to know that we haven't asked you yet?
Boy.
I'm glad to hear of the military service.
Yeah.
That's a really key component that I think people, see you as principal, and that's what they see you as.
Sure.
And so I think it's important to uncover those types of things to make people aware of the service, not just the service of yourself as a principal, but the service beyond that to the country.
Absolutely. That's been a big part of my life, a very big part. And like I mentioned earlier, friends that I have, the connections that I have still, some of the greatest people I've worked with and call friends now. So, and then the experiences, you asked about where I've been. I was deployed in Kuwait, but I've been to Germany, because of the military all over the United States in many different locations and many different times at those places. So,
any other stateside places where your unit has been called to support situations, whether that be weather or anything else, security of some sort?
Yeah,
stateside?
so when the War on Terror started, we were deployed or activated in 2005 and spent 4 months, just over 4 months in Oklahoma. I've spent a lot of time in Oklahoma. That's the home of the field artillery.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of training down there, from my basic training to my officer training, and then to spend that time with my unit and battalion as we were getting ready to go overseas. If you remember when Bush came on and said the war was over, about a week after that we got stood down and came home a couple months after that. So completed all our training. And then I've been to war fighters, a couple of warfighter exercises in Seattle, in Washington. And so when we came back from our deployment, that summer was the year of the flood. Our battalion was the first unit to take the command of the military side of that. And so I spent 3 weeks in Pierre working out of the Emergency Operations Center. At the time, I was the executive officer for the battalion. So.
Wow, so a lot of different situations
you've
seen yourself
all kinds of different things.
Over time. Yeah. So do you ever miss being in the classroom teaching math and science?
You know, I don't know if I have the skills for it anymore. The teachers now are so much better equipped than I was, and they do such a fantastic job of keeping students engaged and motivated. And the few times that I get in there now, there's a little twinge of missing it, but I really enjoy what I'm doing. And so I feel like I can impact more by being involved in several classrooms or all around the building. So.
So what about your teachers at McGovern? You have some incredibly dedicated teachers there that are in it for the kids.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's so amazing. What do you want people to know about the teachers there?
You know, probably the number one thing I'd want everybody to know is how caring they are. And that is not just in their classroom or about the educational process. They care about these kids in every aspect of their life. We do a program called George McGovern Cares that our counselors have established and built over the years, but our staff raises an incredible amount of money through just their own drives. We don't go out to the community very much. We did get several donations this year from community members, but the staff themselves are so giving to that organization, to that fundraising drive, but all the time. Anything they can do to help the kids. The basketball camp I mentioned that we had done with Great Life actually started because one of our educational assistance behavior people had come to us and said, I don't have anything going on over Christmas break. He played college basketball.
Wow.
We have another one who was a professional basketball player in the NBA for a few years, and the two of them put the camp together. And
as a staff member, you have a staff member
yes.
who's in the NBA?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Big guy, 6'8", walking down the hallway.
Woo.
The kids love him. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, they obviously found their passion.
Yes.
In the halls of George McGovern as well. And we hope kids take that and say, hey, you can do anything and be anything and go anywhere. And
absolutely. And those behavior specialists make such great connections with our kids, and all of them, like you said, they are that role model to them. And you can be whatever you want to be. Just work hard, and they do a great job of talking to the kids about those experiences. So
that's awesome. Well, George McGovern Middle School Principal Tim Koehler has spent the last bit of time with us telling us about himself, and I hope you've learned something. I know I have, and I thank you for joining us today on Staff Center Stage.